What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here at the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys with Tad the Side. And Tad, we're entering the double-digit weeks now. So, I mean, it's like, I know we talked about...
Where does the season go, man?
I know, it sort of goes by real fast, and we were talking last week about it being the midway point, and, I mean, we still got a lot of football left to go. We still got, 8 weeks of the regular season, and obviously we got the entire postseason, but, yeah, hitting those double-digit weeks, it's like, yeah, this is now... We're probably going to see, when you're watching the broadcast, we're going to see more, the playoff picture graphics on every single broadcast, or that's probably going to start creeping up a lot more now too. So, but yeah, I mean, it's good that we're, this far along in the season, but then it's also bittersweet because it's like we only have so much more of the season left to go, but it's still exciting times.
Well, and I have a very new, exciting segment to debut on the show. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Yes. For our audience, I did not run this past Mer, but
yeah, he definitely did not.
But God, I wish we had a graphic for this. It is the debut of Desai Guys Dash from last place. Really rolls off the tongue there.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Desai Dash. I thought Desai Dash sounded kind of weird. But Desai Dash from last place. Anyways, people, I'm doing the Allen Iverson. It's over. It's over. My main league, where we have the horrible punishments, which got our Twitter account deleted. Thank you, Amir. I am in contention to finish last there, but my 4-game losing streak, unless Keenan Allen all of a sudden goes off in the next 20 minutes, it's over, which means I am now currently tied for last place. So when you say, hey, we got 8 weeks of football left, I'm like, oh yeah, that's still enough time to break out of this last place, chokehold that I'm currently in. So every week I will keep you guys updated, and trust me, when the time comes, if I finish last, we will get plenty of show content out of that. But it's okay, because I'm not going to finish last. Also, don't turn over your roster every other week. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, I've told you that so many times before, yet you consider doing it every single week, and for some reason, this is why you're in the whole year.
It's an addiction at this point.
Who trades Christian McCaffrey?
I thought he was going to miss
that.
I thought he was going to miss the last 2 weeks. That's what I thought was going to happen. You know what? What kind of friend are you? It's your team. You should have told me, like, no, he's going to be okay. You know what?
I was like, you be patient, and you're like, no, I need to do it. I need to make a rash move. I can't deal with it. And then you traded away, and now you're going to be screwed.
Being patient versus he will play are two entirely different things.
God, yeah. Well,
no, it's okay because I got Saquon Barkley as a replacement. There's nothing wrong with that offense right now.
Yeah, seriously. So, Tad, I know there's 8 weeks left of the regular season, but as far as fantasy football, I think it's probably like 5 to 6 weeks. So, I mean, you got maybe a month and a half or so to really turn things around. So,
well, it depends on your week. Does your league not run up to the last week?
Ours goes up to week 17. So, I mean, that's the second to last week.
Okay. You were including playoff football. Gotcha. Math's not my strong suit.
No, week 18 is the official last week of the regular season. Week 17 is the second to last week of the regular season. So that's where the playoffs end.
I hate that bye week extra week so much.
Yeah. So that's how it's all going to play out. So yeah, we're sure to get updates from Tad as far as how he's doing in his personal league, whether he's going to be
tied for last, baby. Tied for last.
A bar or at a Denny's or at a Waffle House, or I don't know what he's going to be doing, but he may be doing something. And yeah, we'll definitely have that punishment in case he does have to go through with that. But don't punish yourself, because you should definitely partner with our good friends at Underdog Fantasy, because they are a great resource to get in on some, hybrid fantasy / betting action, because you can get in on their pick'em games. Tad, all you have to do is pick a number of props between 2 and 5. You can get up to 20 3x bonus if you pick all 5 players. And all you have to do, Tad, is just pick a player and whether they're going to meet a certain statistic by going higher or lower. So, will Dak Prescott over the weekend, will he throw for over 1.5 touchdowns? You just go over, under. If it's correct, you get that correct. If you don't, then unfortunately you'd miss it. But just like, great thing about this too is that if you pick up to 5, you can also go with what's called an insurance play. So if you miss on all 5, if you still get 4 of them, you'll get a portion of your return back as far as how much you bet. So, I mean, yeah, they've got you covered in case you can't get all 5. They got the insurance play to get you there on 4. There's also just best ball. So it's like you draft your complete roster, way at the beginning of the season. You make no sort of lineup changes whatsoever. So there you don't have to worry about waiver wires. Don't have to worry about trades. Don't have to worry about start sits. It just automatically sets the best roster for you as the season goes along. And then you just see who was able to draft with the future in mind as far as some of these players. So it's a different take up fantasy football, but they got you covered there. But guys, biggest thing why we're saying is partner with our good friends at Underdog Fantasy is because we want to help you out. We have a promo code that will give you a double up of your initial deposit up to $500, at least $10 on your first deposit. Just use our promo code DESAI. That's DESAI. And like I said, you'll get a double up on your initial deposit, at least $10 up to $500 of a double up on your initial offer there. So Tad, hypothetically, if you were to put in $500, Underdog will match that. So you'll have $1,000 worth of credit to play with on the Underdog Fantasy platform. So yeah, make sure you take advantage of that. Once again, that promo code is DESAI, DESAI. And I mean, yeah, Ted, not to brag, but over the weekend, I played some bets on Underdog Fantasy.
I was just about to bring this up.
I won myself $600 thanks to their pickup game. So I mean, guys, it's pretty simple to do. You just have to make some quick picks, and then all of a sudden you're already locked in, and you can win yourself a good chunk of change, especially with the holiday season creeping up right around the corner here. So, Tad, you use the platform too. I know you're a huge fan of it. I mean, tell the viewers and the listeners out there how great Underdog is.
I mean, it's just so simple, right? Like there are other sites out there where, betting, you have all these props, all these, money lines, everything else. That's so complicated. But then with Underdog, it's just simply under or over. And, exactly. and a big thing too is, like you said, with that insurance pick, is most of these betting companies, they just want your money, right? Exactly. Underdog wants you to have fun. They're not interested in just like sucking you dry. They really want you to have fun. And like you said, if you make a lot of bets and you get lucky just that one time, they want you to come back with those partial returns. So it's a really, really fun website. I'm loving it. I am definitely I've been going on player props for the over-under, but after your success this weekend, I am definitely going for the game picks as well.
Yeah, so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, take advantage of that offer. Just use our promo code DESAI. Like I said, you'll get a double up of your initial deposit, at least $10 up to $500 on the Underdog Fantasy platform. So, Tad, we actually get into the injuries that happened over the weekend, because that may affect some player props that come up this coming weekend, because, I mean, there's some significant injuries that happen. I mean, we're going to start here at the very top here. Daniel Jones, quarterback for the New York Giants, has unfortunately suffered a pretty serious injury on what looked to be a non-contact play. He just sort of got his cleat stuck in the turf a little bit weird. They sort of twisted it around, and then he got tackled on top of that. But just overall, he was taken to the locker room. He did not return in the game. There's more tests that were done today here on Monday as of recording, and it has been confirmed he has torn his ACL in his right knee. And the crazy thing, Tad, is that this is his first game back after missing the last 3 games with a neck injury. So, I mean, he was dealing with some injuries aside from the ACL injury. But yeah, the ACL pretty much is just going to confirm that he's out for the rest of the season. We'll see how soon he can come back and start in next season. But I mean, Tad, we sort of talked about this, where it's like, even when he was in there, it's like, was that more effective than, when Tyrod Taylor was running the offense? But Tyrod Taylor, fortunately, is also on the IR. He's dealing with a rib injury.
I want to talk about the Tyrod Taylor injury real quick. Do you think he went for the shot this time? Or do you think he was like, no, you keep that needle the hell away from me. Don't you? I know what happens with this. You keep it away. Like, but you can be back in 2 weeks. I don't care.
Yeah.
Stay away.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I imagined that exchange going down.
It probably very well could have happened. I don't know the severity of the rib injury, but yeah, he is officially on the IR, so he won't be eligible to come back for at least a couple more weeks. So right now they're riding with Tommy DeVito as their starting quarterback.
You know what? That's my favorite Sopranos character.
Yeah, close enough, exactly. But the only other Giants quarterback on the roster, Tad, is former USC alumni Matt Barkley. So I mean,
Matt
we'll
Barkley's
see.
back in the league.
Matt Barkley is still in the league, and so he is currently on the roster there. So we'll see whether it's going to be DeVito, whether it's going to be Matt Barkley, whether they're going to sign somebody off the free agency wire here, or elevate somebody from the practice squad. I don't know what it is, but just overall, Tad, just this Giants offense takes a massive hit with both of those quarterbacks being out, and now rolling with Tommy DeVito and possibly back Barkley, like I said. But just this is an absolute nightmare, especially with you saying that you have Saquon Barkley on your roster. I mean, this is just continues to be bad news for you for sure.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend too much time with this.
No, I know. Yeah,
you don't want to wallow with the pain here. It's okay. We got a lot of other injuries to get
especially like when Darren Waller's still battling through a lot of injuries. Like this Giants offense is just like crumbling right before our eyes, like almost literally. I mean, they had to get Justin Pugh off the couch, as that famous clip showed.
Yeah, that was a great clip.
That was great. That was so great. So yeah, it's other than Barkley, it's hard to trust anyone in this Giants offense. I know he's not your pick for receiver tonight. He's not my pick either, but one interesting name that kind of popped up, and I yes, that touchdown was probably a fluke, but Wan'Dale Robinson received a lot of looks from DeVito. So I think that's a potential name to keep an eye out on. But other than Robinson and Barkley, I'm not, if I see that, those three letters NYG, I'm staying away.
Yeah, and it's actually funny that you bring up Darren Waller, but he's also on the IR dealing with a hamstring injury.
See, I missed that
for a couple of weeks too. So I mean, yeah, it is definitely very rough times for the New York Giants right now.
This is Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii happening right here.
Yeah, it is very, very rough right now to be a Giants fan for sure. So sad for you, Kerry Grongard. Very good fan of ours of the LAFB.
Yeah.
He's dealing with the roughness right now.
I was wondering why he was so quiet in the chat.
Yeah, I would be pretty quiet too with all the mess that's happening there. Tal, let's stick to the NFC East. Unfortunately, this one hurts you as well. Dallas Goedert tied it with the Philadelphia Eagles. Left the game at the end of the third quarter against the Dallas Cowboys with a forearm injury. Test came back, and unfortunately, he has suffered a broken forearm that he will require surgery on to mend it. This will put him on the IR, so he'll be out for at least the next 4 weeks, possibly longer. The hope is that it's not season ending. It looks like it's not going to be that severe of an injury. So when the Eagles are making their playoff push or when they're actually in the playoffs, I think he should be back right before that time. But when you need him right now, i.e. Tad, when you need it right now and you're trying to make that push to climb out of last place or make a push for a playoff spot or maintain your number one spot in your playoff, in the playoff picture or whatever it is, fortunately, he is going to be out. So yeah, in the meantime, you're going to have to roll backup tight ends. Jack Stoll, Grant Calcaterra. I don't know if you remember, Ted, but they traded for Albert.
I discovered that this morning
from the Denver Broncos earlier this season, or I think it might have been the offseason, if I remember correctly. I think it was in the preseason. So they may elevate him for the practice squad, and you may see him get involved into the offense. But just overall, it's a really wait and see approach with the Eagles tight end situation now. But obviously, if you have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, I think you're fine in that department. But as far as the tight end's concerned, yeah, you're going to have to look on another team as far as a replacement for Dallas Goedert for the next 4 weeks at least. For
our YouTube audience, they just saw me give a big thumbs up when you said that. That was not me being like, hey, good take, even though it was. Good job, buddy. is Devontae Smith and AJ Brown's stock, which is
going up.
Insane considering how well AJ Brown is doing this season. That man is a monster.
Yeah.
Can you believe they only give up one first? Anyway, I'm so mad. Well, I'm not really mad because at least he's out of the AFC South, but whatever.
True.
Because is the Eagles tight end going to be involved in this offense? Was already a crapshoot, even with Dallas Goedert in there. So now you put in 3, well, I'm sure very nice people, way less talented than Dallas Goedert. So I think that that tight end position, that importance is going to get diminished a lot. And I think that's just going to lean on more dependence between Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. Now, it's hard for AJ Brown's stock to go much higher. I think Devonta Smith is going to be the biggest benefactor from this injury. I'm not saying he's happy about that. Of course, he never wants a teammate to get hurt. But when it comes to fantasy, like I said, it gets a little, cold-blooded sometimes. And yeah, Devonta Smith, his stock's shooting up in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ted, let's keep this moving along here. We got a wide receiver here from the Green Bay Packers. Fortunately, this guy is
another person on my team.
moving towards that label of getting the injury bug thrown on him, and that is
Mhm.
Christian Watson. He has suffered a potential concussion along with a chest and back injury in the game against the Los Angeles Rams. He unfortunately landed quite hard on a big 37-yard reception in the fourth quarter. Then they took him out for the rest of the game. Head coach Matt LaFleur has said that the injury shouldn't keep him out long term, but there's a strong chance that he can't play this weekend. He is not in the concussion protocol as of yet, but I think they want to make sure that the chest and the back are doing okay. So I think it's just the head precaution. Obviously, him landing the way they did, they had to at least evaluate it for a concussion. But as of right now, he's not in the protocol, so I think he should be okay as long as the chest and the back are doing okay for this weekend with their game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But just yeah, he's had a short career, Ted. It feels like he's gone through a plethora of injuries with concussions and leg injuries and now the back and the chest. And just like the guy just can't stay on the field. As dynamic of a player as he is, this is just opening the door for all of their other young receivers where you got Romeo Dobbs and you got Jaden Reed and they got tight end Luke Musgrave, who scored his first career touchdown in this game over the weekend against the Rams. So I mean, it's just like that just opens up the door for all these other guys. And just Christian Watson is just like hard to become a dependable piece on your fantasy roster as well as for the roster of the Packers.
I don't blame him though. Is because it's exactly like what you said. He's such a dynamic player, but I don't know what happened. Is LaFleur still their coach, right? He hasn't been fired yet?
Yeah, especially since I just said head coach Matt LaFleur.
Okay, well, I was half listening. But anyway, point being is...
God damn it.
When you're forming a take in your head, you can only, split. That's the way the brain works. But anyway, the point being is, I don't
know what... teach? How do you teach the youth of America I think a lot of derail you with a question. You're just like, where was I the lesson plans? Like, does that happen on a regular basis now?
I know a really bad joke I can say, but some of them listen to the show, so I'm not going to say it. But anyway, LaFleur, he made this weird switch where exactly the word you said, which was dynamic. But they're not using Watson in a dynamic sort of way this year. So far, all they've been doing is kind of being like, it's like that, when you play Madden online and the guy's, all he's doing is running for verts the entire game. And you're like, do you know how this works? Because Christian Watson's not built for that. He's not built to be go up and grab him receiver. But unfortunately, just due to the build of the other receivers, that's the role he's been forced in. So no wonder he's getting hurt. Because he does, and this is a weird kind of dichotomy I was talking about, is he's if you give him the ball a lot, he can sustain hits pretty well. But when he's going up, that's when you're more vulnerable to injuries like the concussion, like the leg stuff. So I think that really it's not his fault. It's how he's being used this year. But with all that said, I like Romeo Dobbs a lot. I think his stocks can go up from this. Jaden Reed's good, but inconsistent. Overall, this Packers offense, we were very, very high on them the first couple of weeks. I think they have fallen down to earth. They, you know what? I came up with this quote. You right? They are who we thought they were. And who they are is just, it's a middling offense. So it sucks. I hate to see it for Christian Watson because I really like him as a player. He's also on my fantasy bench. And it's just, I think his fantasy season, even if he does come back healthy, is pretty much done.
Yeah, I remember reading reports too over the weekend, or I think it was during the week, but just that the quarterbacks coach apparently prefers Sean Clifford to start. Like they're just not.
He's a Packer.
He is a Packer, but they're not all on board with Jordan Love after like you said, they started out pretty well, and now he's sort of fallen off a cliff, and he just sort of, like you said, crashed back to reality. Whatever sort of cliche you want to put in there, but just he has not looked the same as when he started the season. And so I don't know whether he will finish the season. I think that's probably just speculative rumor that that they're trying to, spark up some sort of controversy here. I don't think that's the case. I think they'll let Jordan Love finish out the entire season, but heading into next year, his job is definitely not secure if these sorts of reports are coming out. So very interesting situation in Green Bay.
I cannot wait. This quarterback race for the top 3 QBs in the draft is going to be insane.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, and we'll touch on that, in just a matter of a couple months, Ted. That's going to be draft season is going to be coming up pretty soon here.
Oh, say it again.
Draft season starting up in a couple of months.
Yeah,
it's going to be exciting stuff. But Tad, unfortunately, the hits keep coming for you, Tad, because now the next guy that I got to bring up is a member of your Indianapolis Colts, and that is Josh Downs, rookie wide receiver. Talking about the draft, this is a great rookie that they got in this year's past draft. And just unfortunately, he aggravated his knee in this game against the Carolina Panthers, were ruled out the rest of the game in the middle of the second quarter. Heading into this game, he was sort of having that Q next to his name. He was questionable. He was dealing with that injury that came up during their Thursday practice. He thought he could tough it out. It looked like he did, but unfortunately just got re-aggravated. They took him out for the rest of the game. He's been a key contributor. I mean, Tad, we brought him up on the podcast a handful of times already.
Contributor?
Yeah, he's been a key contributor. Like I said, for this offense.
He's been a key pillar.
Yeah, no, that's probably a more appropriate word for sure. You're watching more Colts games than I am, obviously, but just, yeah, I'm going to want to see whether he could sort of, get through practice all this week, whether he's going to be healthy to go against the New England Patriots, whether they're going to sit him out longer, or just what's going to happen there. But just, yeah, this is sort of a situation to monitor because, like you said, he's a very big part of that offense. It just, unfortunately, if he's out, that's going to limit what they can do on offense then. So Isaiah McKenzie came in and replaced Josh Downs, but I was not a huge fan of him when he was back in Buffalo. He was very, every so often he had a good game, but just him going to Indianapolis, I just didn't see the translation of him being all that great. I really like Josh Downs. Maybe we'll see Alec Pierce finally emerge because, I mean, he's been a no-name this entire season practically.
Well, he's been struggling with injuries as well.
There you go. I didn't know that. So I mean, that's part of it too. So hopefully this will sort of give an opportunity that if he's healthy, that he can sort of step up and be that second guy in the offense behind Michael Pittman as well. But just, yeah, sorry, buddy. This seems like to be a rough injury episode for you. So we got Josh Downs next on the list here as a potential out here in week 10. But yeah, we'll have to see how the how the practice week goes.
Why is it we finally draft well? Because the Colts have drafted horrifically. The last, not even a decade. You could argue the last 2 decades. They have drafted really poorly. We have arguably the best draft class since we got Manning back in 98?
Yep.
They all get hurt.
Yeah.
It was funny because a lot of people were texting me like, "Hey, the Panthers won," and I was, you beat the Panthers. Yeah. You beat the Panthers. Like the Colts won. You must be pretty happy. I'm like, honestly, I'm kind of at that point. I'm like, can we just tank? Because we're playing ourselves in number 13 or 14 where you're like, shit, we're stuck. And it's just all the top tackles are going to be gone by then. I don't know. It's been a very confusing season for me in so many ways.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, Kenny Moore, have yourself a day, man. 2 pick sixes and then another interception on top of that. His family was out there. So, I mean, that was just the perfect game for his family to show up for. He definitely showed out for them. And then, yeah, like you said, Colts got to win. So, I mean, that's saying something for sure.
And what genius has 2 thumbs and started him in multiple leagues? This guy.
That'll be the Colts defense, not Kenny Moore, because he don't play it in IDP leagues. But
no, but I probably also would have started Kenny Moore. But, hey, it doesn't matter because it's 6 points regardless.
It's true. But yeah, so unfortunately he's rostered in the IDP leagues that I play in, so I didn't have an advantage of starting him or not. But just, yeah, that was a good day for the Colts defense and 100% Kenny Moore. All right, Ted, just a couple more injuries that we need to get to here. Let's go with the game that's happening as of right now. Maybe it's coming close to an end here. Josh Palmer of the Los Angeles Chargers. He was unfortunately ruled out for this game against the New York Jets, and he was actually put on the IR as well. This will keep him out for the next 4 weeks at least. I mean, just Palmer was looking like he was a good piece of this offense, especially with the injury to Mike Williams being out for the rest of the season with his injury. But just, yeah, now you're missing another piece in that passing offense with Josh Palmer being out. Lots of the targets will now go towards Gerald Everett, hopefully. And then, this maybe is a bright side for you, Tad, but just maybe Quentin Johnston will finally take advantage of this opportunity and he'll get some targets in this offense.
Hold on. The game went final. He finished with 2 catches, 14 yards.
Yeah.
Why does Kellen Moore hate him? You know what?
Kellen Moore went to Boise State. Is that in the same conference?
They used to be. Oh, that's interesting. Because I think back then, when Kellen Moore was playing for Boise State,
think of something maybe.
You know what? I'm going to create a new banner. #fire Kellen Moore. That'll be popular with LAFB now.
100% it will be. 100% it will be. But just, yeah, so hopefully, we'll see some more involvement by the rookie Quentin Johnston. They also elevated Jalen Guyton off of the practice squad, so he's a deep threat for them. Maybe he'll get involved. But honestly, right now, this offense is pretty much Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. Outside of that, if you can stop those 2 guys, it seems like this offense will be very limited for sure. So hopefully like you said, Kellen Moore will sort of shake off whatever sort of, bad juju he has for Quentin Johnston.
He made a
and they
great
can use
third
him.
down catch. I don't know if you saw that, but Quentin Johnston made a great third down catch. I think I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just like I was so excited on draft night. I'm like, this is the perfect offense for him to go to. I'm starting to doubt that because I don't think it's anything QJ's doing, because when he does get the ball, he looks solid. I'm not saying it's like he's amazing, but like, I don't know. I just think maybe the skill set plus the style that I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah, so we'll see how it all plays out.
Why do we do this to ourselves? It's so stressful.
And maybe it's taking him a little bit of time to adjust to the scheme too. Who knows? Maybe in his second year he'll continue to get better and he'll become more part of the offense. But just as of right now,
Mike Williams
he has an opportunity.
Mike Williams sucked at first with the Chargers too.
Very true. Very true. Then he eventually got it going on. So let's see. Hopefully he can take advantage of this opportunity. Maybe Kellen Moore will evolve it a little bit more, but we'll see exactly how this all plays out. All right, Ted, just last two injuries that I want to get to is actually the same game, same team, unfortunately. So we got Cam Akers, running back with the Minnesota Vikings, and KJ Osborne, wide receiver with the Minnesota Vikings as well.
I have something to say about that one, but
all right, so let's get to the Akers injury first. Was carted off the field in the third quarter of the game against the Atlanta Falcons. Fortunately, a lot of reports were saying that it's looking like it's a torn ACL, and unfortunately, with the reports that came out today at the initial and the more tests that came out, it has been confirmed that he has suffered an Achilles injury, excuse me, and it's looking like he was going to supplant Alexander Mattison in that backfield. Like, I mean, you see Akers getting the ball in that backfield. He just looked to be a lot stronger than what Mattison was doing. And you're like, okay, eventually, I think as the season goes along, Akers will be that number one guy. Mattison will support him, very similar to the Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison situation. But just fortunately, this injury is going to derail his career a little bit here, because you remember, Tad, back in 2021, when he was with the Los Angeles Rams, he suffered a same injury on the right leg. This is now with his left leg. So he was able to come back, and he did play on that playoff run for that team there. He had a handful of snaps there in the Super Bowl, obviously. But now Mattison will remain probably entrenched as a starter, and now the backup will be Ty Chandler. I don't know how much I value Ty Chandler, but I think Alexander Mattison, I think that sort of legitimizes the fact that he can be trusted now as a starting running back for your fantasy roster. And then getting to KJ Osborne, man, this guy took a big hit in that game.
That looked like a Mortal Kombat fatality.
It was pretty rough. He was on the ground for a handful of minutes, which is, doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're watching it and you're like, look at this guy not move, it was kind of freaky to see him for sure. Eventually, he was able to get up. He was able to walk to the field on his own power.
Time. Should we have let him get up?
I think the trainers were there. They obviously want to make sure that if he could get up on his own, that's obviously better. That sort of side that, something could be better as opposed to like very serious. Obviously, we don't want unfortunately, a DeMar Hamlin situation where he just didn't get
Honestly, I thought it was on that level. When I first saw it, I thought it was on that level. I was like, oh, this could be really bad.
So thankfully he was able to get up under his own power. Later on Instagram, he's able to update whoever follows him that, everything is all good. He's like, God is good. Everything is looking all right. But 100% he is in the concussion protocol. So we'll see whether he's going to be able to clear to be playing this weekend. But in the meantime, I like the replacement in Brandon Powell. I think this could be a secret.
Hold on. Sorry. I'm going to stop you real quick because I have got to bring this up. I was talking with my friend Coy as that was happening live, and the reason I put him by name is I just found out he's actually a very loyal listener of ours. So shout out, Coy. We were cracking up, and it's funny in hindsight now because he's okay, like you said. I don't know, were you watching Red Zone while that was happening, or what were you doing?
No, I think I was watching a little bit of the tail end of that game. But okay. I wasn't watching Red Zone. No.
So the injury happened, right? And so Red Zone showed it live. And they were like, okay. And Scott Hansen was just like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. And all this, I'm sure he was being legitimate in that. And he just goes, all right, so we're gearing up to show you a replay. We're just going to show you the one replay. And then after a little bit, after like 30 seconds, he's like, actually, we're not going to show you the replay out of respect. You don't need to see that. And that's when I was like, oh, this is really bad. And then like 2 minutes later, they cut back to the game where he's kind of like getting on this, the cart, and they just go, he's okay. Here's the replay.
Of course. Yeah.
We're just like, oh, come on, man.
Wasn't that bad then. We can show the replay. So
he's not dead. Watch him like get absolutely decimated. We both were just like, oh, come on. Like try to be more transparent. Because of course the second he went down, they're like, and here's a punt. I was just like, oh, dear God. They showed like Tyson Bagent on like the 30-yard line.
Yeah. I don't know how they decided to do that, but that's how they did it. So.
Anyway, so Powell, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan of Powell. So, like I said, I think with the game happening the way that it did, unfortunately, also in that game, we didn't bring him up here because I think, unfortunately, he's not going to be relevant going forward. But Jaron Hall suffered an injury very early in that game. He left the game with a concussion, and that's when they had to bring in Josh Dobbs. And I mean, it's crazy, Tad, because I don't know if you saw this tweet by Kevin Seifert, an ESPN reporter who covers the Minnesota Vikings, and I think the NFC North as well. But he came out with this stat, which I mean was just insane. He was like, Josh Dobbs didn't know most of the Vikings players' teammates' full names.
Yep.
He had never taken a snap from the center. They never had his cadence down either. None of the receivers had caught a practice pass from him all, week long or whatever it was. So he was pretty much brand new could be for this offense. They panned over to the sidelines where, I don't know, Tad, if you saw this, where it was like he was taking snaps from the center and the rest of the offensive linemen were around him trying to understand his cadence. Like, I mean, it was just crazy scene. But then he leads the comeback. I mean, it continues the saga that is Josh Dobbs this season. It's just amazing. But in relation to that, I just want to say that just like because Josh Dobbs is sort of like in this offense, he's got to take what he can get. We don't have Justin Jefferson just yet. He is eligible to come off the IR list this week as long as the Vikings want to activate that practice window. So we'll see whether that is going to be the case. But as of right now, Jordan Addison's leading receiver. Unfortunately, you're not going to be with KJ Osborne, but Brandon Powell, I think he could step up to be that secondary guy behind also TJ Hawkins in the tight end. But I think Josh Dobbs is just going to take what the offense can give him, and that could be Brandon Powell being more open, because defenses are going to tailor their defenses to stop Jordan Addison. That's like, okay, this is the threat we need to worry about. Also, TJ Hawkinson, that can leave Brandon Powell open to get a lot of these open targets and receptions, possibly to score a little bit. So, I mean, in the interim, until we figure out when Justin Jefferson is going to be coming back, Brandon Powell could be a very sneaky pickup off of the waiver wire to be a supplemental piece to your fantasy roster in case you're angling for a spot on your flex position. Maybe if you're in a deeper league, you have like a wide receiver 3 or 4, so he could be one of those guys as well. Because also, Tad, I forgot to bring this up at the top of the episode, but we have 4 teams on a bye week this week. We got some big teams on a bye week. We got the Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Rams, the Miami Dolphins, and the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, yeah, lots of big teams that
every competent offense in the league is taking the week off. Gotcha.
A little bit, yeah. So you got to make sure you're making some adjustments there. And so, yeah, this could be a situation where you need to stream a receiver. Brandon Powell could be a very fortunate piece that could be a very sneaky ad off the waiver wire.
No, it's interesting because I actually agree with what you said, and I'll get in more of this in a bit, but it's also possible head coach Kevin O'Connell's playing at Coy today. We're recording as of Monday, where, Justin Jefferson is eligible to come off the IR this week, and reporters asked him at practice today, are you going to do it? And he basically just gave them we'll see. Which is just so much fun for fantasy owners. But it is interesting because even if Justin Jefferson comes back, I actually think that might increase Powell's stock, because you got to remember, I shouldn't say I'd never heard of him, but I barely heard of this guy before. And Josh Dobbs made him look to the point where I almost marked him as a big time.
He scored the game-winning touchdown.
Whoa, hold on, not Powell, but back in his time with Arizona, there's a slight man who you should know because he absolutely butchered your 49ers secondary by the name of Michael Wilson.
Yep, Michael Wilson.
Dobbs made that man look like, I was like, oh my God, where's this guy been all season? And I was convinced at that point. There was one other receiver I liked a little bit more. Otherwise, I would have gushed about him. And ever since, and he fell off, but I think Dobbs has this incredible ability to, create something out of nothing. And so Powell's a good speculative ad. I'm so glad I'm using that term multiple times tonight. This should be interesting. But I think if you're in desperate need for a receiver, I think there are better guys to go for. But if it's kind of like if you're like on the upper end of your league and you kind of have a bench spot to spare, it's an interesting ad for sure.
Exactly. So those are the week 9 injuries that we wanted to get to, Tad. So let's get to our week 10 waiver wire picks, Tad. So I know we're sort of getting deeper into the season, and usually you kind of have your roster pretty set. There's very few positions that you need to start streaming now. So I don't want you to give me every pick that you have here. I want you to give me your 3 favorite picks off the waiver wire week here, week 10.
How dare you? Okay. All right, well, number one's easy. It's the guy we were just talking about. Let's talk more Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, let's do it. I think that's a great ad. That's great.
What's your favorite Elton John song?
Tiny Dancer, maybe?
Nope, you're wrong. Because right now, you and I, we're both loving the Rocket Man.
Rocket Man's a good one. I like that one.
That was good. That was clever. But anyway, I love Josh Dobbs so much. We talked, it was funny because while I was putting notes together for this episode, I was like, where were all my picks from last week? And then all of a sudden I remembered, I'm like, oh, we didn't make any picks from last week. Sure. But what we did instead was a trade deadline analysis video. And I distinctly remember being like, can we talk Josh Dobbs? Can we talk Josh Dobbs? Can we talk Josh Dobbs? And you had to wait until about the last 15 minutes till we finally could. And I was so excited because I knew that this was a very talented offense that was combining with a guy that is a great improviser. And I was like, this is awesome. Because you're in the middle of a season, you're in the middle of, at that time, a 3-game win streak. And like I was like, this is the perfect addition. And then they were like, nah, Jared Hall's starting. Okay, fine. I understand that. Get him used to the offense. And then when Jared Hall went out, I was not happy by any means. I actually really felt bad. Could you imagine your first NFL start ending before the first quarter is even up? Seriously. Like, that sucked. But what was so cool on top of all this, I don't know. I really haven't been watching much SportsCenter, but I feel like a big part of this whole Josh Dobbs story that's being ignored is the fact that he looked really bad. That offense looked terrible when he came in. He allowed a safety. I don't know if it was his first or second drive as a starter, but I was like, oh, this is going to be a very long afternoon for him. And as it went on, I'm like, this is why I love football, because he can make do with like whatever he's given. And what I said last week remains true, and especially now makes him extremely fantasy relevant, is the fact that we saw that he was a solid fantasy streamer in Arizona. Okay, now he is, even without Cam Akers, which is a not big loss, but a noticeable loss for that offense. Even without Cam Akers, this is still an offense that I have a lot of faith in. So you go from solid streamer and then you upgrade an offense. In my honest to God opinion, he's a low-end QB2 now.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
So he scored 26 points last week, and I think that it's really only going to go up. And even if you're not that QB hungry, you're like, hey, I got, I almost said Aaron Rodgers. I got, Pat Mahomes. I got Tua or whatever. He's not a bad bench ad, because more likely than not, one of your league members' QB is probably going to go down in the next few weeks. And that's a very interesting trade piece to kind of dangle in front of them. And on top of everything else, and this was tricky, right? Because I have Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking for a QB to stream. So you may be asking, Tad, are you going to stream Dobbs then? If he's playing anyone else, I would. But he is playing the New Orleans Saints this next week.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough. But get this. His next 2 opponents before they hit their bye week, the Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears.
Solid matchups.
So if you can stash him for a week, woo, those next 2 weeks could pay off big time. So I actually really like Josh Dobbs as an ad. And by the way, he's only rostered in 16% of leagues right now.
Yeah, that's surprising, especially with the season that he was having.
I was shocked at that number.
Like, for him to be this low, and just now being in a more potent offense, I'd probably say, especially with Justin Jefferson hopefully returning soon. Like, that's a very good ad for sure if you need to stream there. So, what else you got for me, Ted?
All right, well, this is not one of my picks. I'm just going to go over them real quick. Because we got to mention him, right? Just for SEO purposes, we got to mention him. Search engine optimization, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
We got to mention him. He went off. And I also got my second shout out of the episode is weeks ago, like 2-3 weeks ago. Good friend of the show, good friend of mine, Jason Davis, texted me. He was like, I just got Mitchell. And I text him back. I'm like, who the fuck is Mitchell? He's just like, Keaton Mitchell. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, who? He's like, no. He's going to be good. He's going to be good. I'm like, okay, if you say so. And then I kind of convinced him to drop him. And so it was for a good pickup, though. I can't remember who it was, but that person did help his team win that week. So then I texted him back. I'm like, any chance you can get Mitchell back? He's like, no. I was like, damn it. But, so shout out to Jason Davis, because I don't think anyone saw this coming, as evidenced by the fact that Mitchell was only rostered in 1% of ESPN leagues this past weekend. So he's going to be the hot pickup of the week. Honestly, I'm kind of staying away. If you really need a running back, he's an interesting speculative ad, but that Ravens backfield is just so fluid, as evidenced by Mitchell's blow up this week. And plus, he only had 9 carries. I think he just had a really, really good game. I think he's going to be a solid matchup based play going forward. So if you really need running back depth, I think he's worth the ad, but just kind of temper expectations there. My real number 2 pick is Cade Otton.
Cade Otton's a good one.
This guy is the pinnacle of consistency. And look, he scored 20 points. So, of course, he's going to be the hot tight end pickup of the week. Do not think he's going to be like a consistent double-digit tight end, but he is consistent. He scored 7 points 2 weeks ago. He scored 7 points last week. And just because he caught that second touchdown, he got up to 20 this past week. He's seen a pretty steady number of targets. And this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense has been looking pretty good. And unfortunately, this defense, I don't know what's going on with them. This defense, they went from so good to so bad so fast. And now it's just like Baker Mayfield just needs to constantly throw it to keep them in the game. So I like Otton to, at the very worst, his floor is a low-end tight end 1, especially because, like I said, consistency is key, especially at that position. And then my final pick, this is risky, but I'm going with it. I like picking up the Atlanta Falcons defense.
Well, I guess if there's one thing you trust with Atlanta, is their defense compared to Arthur Smith's offense right now. So I guess I give you this one.
Yeah. How's that Bijan Robinson take looking now, people?
Jeez,
this is why I expected. I just expected it's the reverse Tyler Algier from last year. Algier blew up around this time. Robinson's starting to tank at this time. But anyway, point being is on the other side of the ball, defense, at least fantasy wise, they're still doing really well. Because I know what our casual listeners and viewers are probably saying is like they just let up. What was it, like 28 against the Vikings? Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, why would I pick them up? Here's a surprising stat for you. Despite letting up all those points, they still scored 9 points in fantasy.
True. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they sack the quarterback enough. They force enough turnovers where even if they let up a lot of points, they still make it fantasy wise worth your while. And on top of that, who's their next opponent? It's the Arizona Cardinals. And let's say Kyler Murray comes back this week, right? We got a guy who is very, very rusty, who we saw what happened with Deshaun Watson. When you take a year off football and you come back, you're not quite as good as people expect you to be. So, okay, you play rusty Kyler Murray, or you play Clayton Tune. And look, nothing against Clayton Tune, but my Lord, did that man look bad? And yes, I understand. I understand it was the Cleveland Browns, but they could get anything going there. So I actually like the Falcons if you really need a streaming option at defense and you're a little higher on the waiver wire where, the Colts are going to be gone. That defense is going to get picked up. So I actually like the Falcons as a sneaky good pickup at defense.
Could be interesting for sure. Like I said, if there's one side of the ball that I trust a little bit more with the Atlanta Falcons right now, I'd probably lean towards the defense because I don't know what's going on with the offense. To have that many stars on your offense, potential stars, I should say, too, and just to get such limited productivity from them. They were even questioning whether they were going to go back to Tyler Heinicke. It has been confirmed that he is going to start at least one more week for the Atlanta Falcons. So I mean, it's just like,
another player in the draft QB race.
Yeah, so
because they're playing they're playing themselves outside the top. Okay, we're gonna do draft talk. You go.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Ted, those are some good ads here. Week 10. I'm going to go through mine. So I already brought up Brandon Powell. I think he's a great ad this week. I already brought up Jared Everett as well. He's my tight end pick for this week. I'm going to the quarterback position because like we talked about, we got 4 very big teams that have good quarterbacks that are going to be on a bye week this week with Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts both being out this week, including Tua Tagovailoa as well. So I'm going to go with a guy that you brought up earlier because you were talking about Cade Otton, Baker Mayfield at the 10.
I like it.
Rostered in 45.4% of ESPN leagues and 48% of Yahoo leagues. So, I mean, he is available in half of those leagues for sure. Back-to-back games with multiple touchdown passes thrown. Has scored at least 18 fantasy points in both of those games as well. Currently, both stat. This is crazy because usually when you talk about Baker Mayfield, you think he's going to be interception prone. He has a touchdown to interception ratio of 3-1. So he's only
that was going to be my guess too.
touchdowns. So, I mean, he's doing pretty good. They play the Tennessee Titans this weekend that allows a completion percentage of 68.8% to opposing quarterbacks, which is the 7th worst in the NFL. So, I mean, they do boast a good defense, but if Baker Mayfield, like you said, by volume, the death by 1,000 paper cuts sort of thing, it's like if they just sort of move the field down, if they move the ball down the field very methodically with just these short passes, they run the ball. Rashad White, he had a very good game over the weekend as well. So, I mean, they just continued that. It's like they don't know to go for these deep shots. And every so often, you get that potential game winner that he had to Kate Otten, where it's just like got that deep strike and they got the touchdown there. So, I mean, I think we may see more of that going forward, though. So, yeah, if you need a streaming quarterback option with some of those big 3 quarterbacks being out this week on the bye week, Baker Mayfield could be a very sneaky good option for you off of the waiver wire. Getting to the running back position here, Tad, I got Chuba Hubbard. So, I mean, we brought this guy up before. We brought him up in our underdog episode, actually, where it's just like Miles Sanders, unfortunately, they paid this guy a lot of money in the free agency, but just like he hasn't lived up to those expectations. It's been for me, it's been a little bit more heartening because I picked this guy to sign in Carolina. I expect him to go off for sure. Fortunately, he has not lived up to expectations. We'll see whether he can sort of reclaim that throne later in the season or maybe heading into next season. But as of right now, Chuba Hubbard has taken the lead role. He had 22 touchdowns, 22 touches in the game against the Indianapolis Colts compared to Sanders having only 11. He was also on the field for 46 snaps compared to Miles Sanders being on the field for only 18 snaps. So clearly, they're going in the direction of Chuba Hubbard. So not sure how this will shake out long term, but I think in the interim, Chuba Hubbard has the hot hand, and it looks like Frank Reich is going with this guy. They get a favorable matchup with the Chicago Bears on the short week playing on Thursday Night Football. They're currently allowing the 7th most fantasy points to opposing running backs, so I like Chuba Hubbard in this short week to have a very good week against the Chicago Bears. And then
real quick, I'm going to interrupt you. And the thing I like about your Hubbard pick, too, is after that Carolina performance against the Colts, where their defense just absolutely dominated them, he's not going to be that high priority of a target.
Sure.
So I think it's if he's still available. What were his availability numbers again?
I don't think I brought up his numbers, but he is rostered in 53% of ESPN leagues and 70% of Yahoo leagues. So there are a lot of people that sort of made that change in Yahoo, but he's still out there. I
mean, 47% of ESPN is not bad. So like if you that's a really, really good sneaky one. Again, if you're higher on the waiver target, if you're like, second, third place, and you're like, what do waivers even matter anymore? No one good is out there. That's a guy that could really fly under the radar.
Exactly. And then I want to close it out, Tad, with a kicker position, especially with a lot of people streaming kickers. Dustin Hopkins of the Cleveland Browns. So
how is he still available?
It's very surprising. I think a lot of people go with the big name at the kicker position. Obviously, you got your Justin Tuckers, your Evan McPherson, Younghoe Koo. So, I mean, lots of these guys that are having solid seasons, they just stay on the waiver wire. Then somebody finally comes along and picks them up for like 1 week and then drops them again. So that's very much the case with Dustin Hopkins. So he is rostered at 42.9% of ESPN leagues and 60% of Yahoo leagues. So I mean, there's some people out there that are aware of him, so a little bit more than others, but Browns have a divisional matchup against the Baltimore Ravens this week. So automatically you can expect this to be a very defensive heavy battle, especially the way that the Ravens have been playing and the way that the Browns have just played against the Arizona Cardinals. So this could be very close, low scoring. But here's the big thing. Hopkins has 14 field goal attempts in the past 4 games alone. He's only missed 1 of them. And if you go back to last season, Tab, between the Browns and the Ravens, both those matchups that they had, they combined for 13 field goals. So like I said, this gets very defensive heavy, lots of field goal opportunities. And so I think Dustin Hopkins should get a lot of opportunities to get some field goals against the Baltimore Ravens. And like I said, it can lead to a lot of potential good points for you if you need to stream at the kicker position. So yeah, lots of good ads that we got this week. We obviously went over the injury reports as well. But guys, I mean, Ted already brought it up. Unfortunately, we didn't get to a waiver wire episode last week. We got to a trade episode where we talked about the NFL trade deadline, and then we talked about some fantasy trades that you should make. But in case we don't get to a waiver wire episode, or, we discussed trades on that episode and we just didn't get to one that you were potentially considering, or whatever the case may be, I mean, guys, you got our social media handles. You got it coming right down below. It's coming right here. So, I mean, guys, follow us on Twitter. Interact with us on Twitter. You got us at UpperTheSide23. You got Tad at TadTheSide94. You got the show handle at TheDecide Guys. And, of course, we're on Instagram at TheDecide Guys as well. So, hit us up with your questions, whether you need trade advice, whether you need start-sit advice, whether you need waiver wire advice. I mean, just whatever sort of advice you need when it comes to your fantasy league. We are here to help you. Like we talked about, Tad was streaming the Colts defense. I don't think a lot of you were streaming the Colts defense. So Tad would have given you that insider pick. Exactly. And so obviously we got Kenny Moore, who had a great day. I play in some IDP leagues. I could advise you to that. But guys, we play in a lot of different leagues. We give you a lot of advice on all those types of leagues. Just make sure to interact with us. We're here to help you win your fantasy titles. And I think more importantly, especially in Tad's case, avoid fantasy punishment. So definitely hit us up. We're here to help you out with that. Guys, wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe so you can always be up to date with our podcast, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Listen right at the LAFB Network website as well. Just hit that subscribe button. Always be up to date with our podcast. Watch us on YouTube. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Always be up to date with our YouTube videos. And please, guys, make sure you're subscribing to our parent network at LAFB Network. They're giving you a lot of great content as well when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers at the professional level and the Bruins and the Trojans at the college level. So lots of great content when it comes to the LA football sports teams. So make sure you give them a support and follow as well. But guys, to everybody who's already interacting with us, who's listening to the podcast, who's watching the videos, who's taking some of our bets on Underdog Fantasy, our great partners, once again, that promo code is DESAI, DESAI, to double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500 on the Underdog Fantasy platform. We love them there. But guys, to everybody who's already doing all of that, and just any way that you're supporting the podcast, we really can't thank you enough.
Amir, I'm tired, man. I'm tired. What about you? How you doing?
I'm all right. It's not as late for me as it is for you.
It's not. It's almost 11 p.m. here. But here's the deal. Look, I know most of our episodes go anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour and 5 minutes long. That's usually where we try to keep it. But you know what, Amir? If people want good sports bets in just under a minute, check out. We have just now started releasing YouTube shorts on the LAFB channel on YouTube with your best Underdog Fantasy picks. So be sure to check that out. And because look, guys, we put a lot of thought into this and we got to squeeze it all in within a minute. If nothing else, it's hilarious to watch. And it's also great information. So you know what? And on top of that, like Amir said, hit us up with trade advice. I know some of you, like me, do not have a trade deadline. And yes, I am still trying to pull off trades despite knowing better, but I just can't help myself. So if you need trade advice, if you need start advice, even after the episode drops, it's not like the episode drops and we're just like, oh, well, we're good. No, we are constantly checking our social media accounts. So be sure to reply to us on Twitter, message us on Instagram, comment on our Instagram post, anything to get in contact with us. We will help you out. So as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And most importantly, stay safe, everyone.